We're going to resume our meeting. We previously started the meeting at 6:30 p.m. in executive session. We're now in public session, obviously. And the first order of business in public session is to entertain comments from the audience, public input. I'm going to ask you just to wait 1 second. I know you guys are here, but we have our student report first, okay? So Jackie Lanzaro is going to give the report, and then we'll go right to the public input.
For sports, the new dance team has had 23 girls sign up to perform at Pepper Lake, and they're planning on having more to sign up to perform at the home boys basketball games this winter. They also made around $450 from bake sales within just the past few weeks, and they plan to use that money to buy new uniforms.
Baking and dance. That's unbelievable.
Their bake sales have been pretty good in the past few weeks. They have won a week. Football lost to Saugus on Friday, and they are playing Triton this Friday at home, which is senior night for the cheerleaders and the players. Field hockey beat Malden last Thursday, and they are playing Triton tonight under the lights. Golf has had a match today versus Linfield. Girls volleyball beat Somerville last Friday, and they are playing Burlington today. Cross country had a meet. They have a meet this Wednesday in Georgetown. Girls soccer beat Newburyport this weekend, and they are playing Triton today. Boys soccer tied Linfield and beat Newburyport last week, and they're playing Triton today. Since October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the girls soccer and volleyball team participated in a breast cancer walk this Sunday, and the cross country team ran in the color run this weekend. Next, the 56 seniors who won the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship for outstanding performance on the MCAS were notified, and there will be more information along with a picture in the transcript next week. The month of October is the food drive month for the high school. The student council has a goal for the school of 5,500 items, which is the amount of items that we received last year. The Massachusetts Association of Student Councils Officer Shop is this Friday at Holy Cross, and 10 students from North Reading High School Student Council will be attending. The congratulations reception for Mr. Bernard, which is sponsored by Student Council, will be this Thursday during Power Block. Seniors were notified on October 1st about their class ranking percent and GPA. The college information night, which was October 2nd, was a success. Also, it was filmed so that people who could not make it to the information night can view it at home, and there will soon be a link on the website. There will be a common application seminar hosted by Guidance tomorrow in Power Block. And the class of 2017 had a fundraiser where students were encouraged to sell items out of a catalog, and they ended up making $1,163.
Jackie, thank you. Any questions of Jackie?
Oh, it was a great report. Thank you.
Very fine.
The boys soccer team won today,
Oh, they did?
so they're now 10-2 and 2.
How the golf team do?
Golf team made the state sectionals, but they lost today.
They did?
They made it by beating Rockwood on
So they made it to the state section. Good. Good.
two golfers going to the Cal championship on Thursday.
Good. Is one of them named Delaney?
He may be. The other one is Dave Schaefer.
All right, thank you.
The other, I think the girls beating Newburyport on Friday, I believe that's the first time we beat Newburyport since 2005.
Yeah,
So
it's been a long
time, and Newburyport is usually a powerhouse of Cape Ann League.
We've been wasting Sean Colleen's talents as a principal all these years. We should have been coaching soccer. It's a shame, but
Exactly.
we're moving forward with that. Okay, Jackie, thank you very much.
Oh, I have my credit.
You have your work though?
Yes.
Okay.
Full service.
I didn't see twin schoolwork. So
Oh,
go ahead.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a surprise, but student council, we had our reception for Miss Willis a few weeks ago, and we laid out the disposable camera so the students that came by took pictures. So in this is, we have signatures and pictures. So we we're trying to get every student to sign it, so we didn't get every student to sign it yet, but we will. So I'm gonna pass it around, but I'm just gonna take it back because we have to finish.
And Jackie kind of stole my thunder, but this is Superintendent Willis's last meeting, and I want to announce that when we have an audience here. I'd ask, you're leaving on the
Friday.
Friday, is the last day,
Nice.
and Mr. Bernard will be taking over on Friday after the Willis leaves. Anybody want to say something? I know I'm throwing this on you guys, but off the top of your head, Mel?
4 years, 2 months, 17 days. I think we have a great superintendent coming in, but I wish we could have you for at least double what we've had before. You've been a years? No,
Yeah.
I couldn't put up with it for that long.
At least it's a lot go on. No, Kat, I think I can speak for the whole committee in saying that you came in here. You were a tremendous leader. I think Kathy put in endless hours as superintendent, and above and beyond that, the time she put in on the building project. And this is a tribute to Kathy too, as well as the entire school building committee. But when Kathy walked in the door a little over 4 years ago, this project was still in its infancy, and she had to pick up the ball not only to run the school district, which she's done exceptionally well, but she also had to pick up the ball, to carry the ball to get this project underway, to get it completed. And I just wish you were going to be here to see the rest of the project completed. I want to thank you on behalf of the committee for everything you've done. The thing that Kathy brought to the table, that I'm not going to say is unique, but it was certainly different than what we've experienced before, is the public relations talent that she had for working with everybody in the community, parents, students, staff, faculty, administrators, and in particular, other boards, other committees, the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee. She had tremendous credibility with all of them, and she's been a true leader. We're going to miss her. And again, we have a great replacement coming in John Bernard, but Kathy, again, on behalf of the school committee, thank you. You've done a tremendous job. Kathy's retirement party is what is it, the 20th?
From Friday.
Yeah, the 24th at the Hillview, if anybody's interested. And then we'll tell you some things about Kathy that you didn't know. Karen, go ahead.
I think the one thing I want to share is that you have inspired our educators and our administrators to be true leaders, and I think your commitment to professional development of our educators and all of our staff here at district is something that is a legacy that we are going to continue to reap the benefits of. So I will miss you tremendously, and I thank you for your example on behalf of all of our staff in the district, and the community will miss you. This is a community that knows you, and they you know them. And there are many superintendents in this state. You stand out.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of being the chair on Kathy's goodbye tour. The Friday before school started, we had the entire faculty staff, and she got a standing ovation. The first day of school, she got a standing ovation. The open house, standing ovation. Back to school, standing ovation. She's had a longer goodbye tour than Derek Jeter. And I didn't think that was possible. So Kathy, again, thank you very much. That's it.
I'm going to share my parting thoughts at the end of my administrative report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't wait till Jerry roasts you on front that Jerry party. He's a great roaster.
Yeah. Jackie, thank you.
Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'd like to get a picture of Jackie presenting the
Oh.
book.
That would be nice.
What just happened?
Oh, it's the
There's a
microphone.
bunch of this.
I'm telling you right now, if you break that microphone, you're paying for it.
What up there, Sean?
So only some of them are red, and the other ones are not.
Thanks, Jeff.
Perfect. We watch that picture.
No rabbit ears.
public input. I know we have a group of parents here that are interested in talking about kindergarten. I don't know if there's a spokesperson. My understanding is that the mics, if you come up to the mic, do they need to come up to a mic to be heard?
No.
You can hear them? Okay, fine, then you can speak from wherever you are. Just identify yourself.
Do I have to? Oh, I'm just gonna have to-
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. Just talk right in the mic, or no?
Nope, you don't have to. Nobody's listening. No.
Either
No, I think they
You
can.
were not allowed to share.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna be banned.
Can y'all see me?
Go ahead, the floor is yours. Just identify
Do
yourself.
I need to stand up or am I good?
No, you can sit there. if you want.
Okay, good. Hi, I'm Debbie Sharp, and this committee is just a group of friends who are concerned about the full-day kindergarten and tuition for full-day kindergarten. So just a little background by myself. I'm actually an educator myself, and so coming from teaching and knowing how important kindergarten is, and so I kind of put together a little bit of data showing how important full-day kindergarten is, how important it is for early childhood. But then also looking at it and knowing that if I realize some students don't need full-day kindergarten, that maybe just developmentally they can't handle it or that, this and that. So, but if a parent and a child both feel it's the right thing to do, then it's the lottery. It was a little shocker to me when I first moved to town. So we're wondering how to get rid of the lottery, but then also looking into maybe reducing the price of kindergarten. But if we get rid of the tuition, then we've lost the lottery too, so it could be a double whammy. So we're coming from a place of positiveness, like we love North Reading, we love the North Reading School District, but what can we do to work together to reduce this? And so we've done a lot of research and looking around the towns and in the neighborhoods. The first page is just the data that we've collected, and then the second page behind there is just actually some current information about all of communities. And seeing that we're only one of 31 communities that do pay the highest tuition, we were wondering how we could work together to reduce that tuition. So now we looked at, we know there's some grants funded, and we were just wondering why North Reading doesn't have any grants, and if that's because it's not done, then we're willing to do that. We'll work together. I've never written a grant, but I could learn. But, you know, and,
Yeah, I think,
so there you go.
I'm going to speak for the committee,
Yeah.
and if I'm speaking out of turn, let me know, but I think all of us are advocates of full-day kindergarten, this is the administration. I don't think there's any question about that.
Right, and I've never come across that either. I just
Yeah.
felt like I needed to plug that.
The one thing I want to say, I do know with the grants, the major issue there is the grants go away after a couple of years, and then the community becomes 100% responsible for funding the kindergarten, which, if we have to do that in this town, we wouldn't be able to fit it in the budget. So that's why I know other communities have gone for grants, and then when the grants go away, it becomes a hardship on the town.
Okay.
But I think we have looked into grants, and I'm sure the superintendent can talk
Yeah, I'm
about
going to
it.
ask the superintendent, business manager to comment, but what we've done over the years, and particularly over the last 15 years or so, is that there are certain services or activities that we felt need to be incorporated into the program. Busing, kindergarten, athletics, extracurricular activities. Because we couldn't afford to pay for those out of our budget, we put together a fee system that would give people the option. If they wanted to have their child in full-day kindergarten, they could pay for it. So we felt that, give the option. We can't afford to do it as a school district. Same with athletics, same with extracurricular activities, and same with busing, for that matter. Believe me, there isn't a person on this committee, and it's one of our goals every year, is to reduce or eliminate fees. But the problem is the cost. And by doing that, it's going to impact or affect other things in our budget. I'm going to ask Kathy to respond, to the comments you made. And if there's some type of solution or remedy that you have, or that you can suggest to fund it, other than charging a tuition, we're certainly willing to listen. And then I'll ask Kathy to also comment on the lottery system as well.
Sure. I'm going to just stand up so
Sure.
that I can address everyone. Thank you. Good evening. As the chairman mentioned, we are very much in favor of full-day K. We would love for full-day K not to have to be subsidized by tuition. As you know, by law, public schools are required to offer compulsory education from ages 5 through 16. Parents do not have to send their children to kindergarten, but public school districts must offer kindergarten in a public school setting. So as the chairman had just referenced, the kindergarten tuition allows for full day K to be self-funding and self-running. If we took away the amount of the tuition, we would need to make up the difference between what's already included in the budget to fund all of the half-day K parts of the salaries of the teachers, whether you're a full-day K teacher or whether you're a half-day K teacher, because by law, we are required to do that. So what the tuition does is make up the second half of the full-day K teacher's salary, as well as the salary of a paraprofessional, because we need to have a paraprofessional in a full-day K program. And then, of course, there's the issue of space, which is not a problem for North Reading, because we do have space in the elementary schools for additional full-day K classrooms. So it's more of a financial issue than anything else. It's certainly not philosophical. In my previous district, where I used to work as assistant superintendent, I was the chair of the kindergarten task force when we first brought full-day K into the district where I worked previously. So I'm very familiar with all of the research behind full-day K and why I think it's a great option for all students, not just the students of parents who can afford the tuition. That being said, we've had some preliminary discussions about how other districts are incorporating or integrating half-day with full-day programs. So there are multiple models out there, but even when we study those multiple models and make the numbers work, so for example, if some of our half-day students attended full-day K programs and left half-day, if parents still wanted their child to only have a half-day program, which they're entitled to, there's still a cost because we need to add 1.5 more teachers. In other words, we'd have to make all of our half-day teachers full-day K teachers. So there's a cost in increasing full-day across the board for everyone. No matter how we look at it, there's an increased cost that would need to be funded within the budget. It's not impossible, but it's something that needs to be planned for to wipe out tuition. In terms of the tuition, I'm going to ask Michael Connolly in a moment to speak to you about the amounts of money that we include in the local budget, as well as the amount of money that's raised through full-day K tuition to offset the cost of running the, I believe, 5 full-day classes that we have across the district this year. In fact, we have one less full day, and that's part of why there was a lottery this year, because the numbers, we couldn't make the numbers work. The little schools' enrollment has declined, or the interest has declined as such that we could not fund 2 full-day K classes at the little school this year. So that's why the lottery was in fact enacted. It's the first time since I've been here that we had to actually use the lottery to determine whether or not we'd have enough spaces for all people that were interested in full-day K. Now, you might not have been in the school of your choice the past 3 years, but you still got a full-day K slot somewhere in the district, whereas we weren't able to do that this year. There were actually, I think, I believe 12 students who did not receive full-day K slots that wanted them this year. So that was why the lottery was used. Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about the funding mechanism for full-day K and what the additional cost to the district would be if we wiped out tuition for next year?
Great. So Ms. Willis is correct. So we do rely very heavily on the current full-day kindergarten tuition to help offset the cost of teachers and paraprofessional maintenance salaries into the program. So currently, the current fee and the enrollment, we rely on about $385,000 of tuition annually, which helps offset the cost of both teachers and paraprofessionals. So we're spending almost double that, in excess of about $650,000, and this offset, we take in about $385,000. So that's a direct budget offset to our general fund. So if we were to reduce the fee or waive the fee or offer free full-day kindergarten, we would have to, at minimum, have a $385,000 budget offset that would would go away.
Michael, I'm going to assume that if there was no fee, we might have more children enrolled as well, right?
That's correct.
385.
That's correct.
Just the kids that
So that
currently
so
enrolled,
that
that enrollment.
with more students, we'd have to increase services, increase teachers, find new teachers, and find new
So the cost.
paraprofessionals, given the class sizes would generally go up. So, so we'd certainly, it's certainly a tuition that we rely heavily on to help the general fund budget. I do know that I've done some of the same research that I saw you included in the packet. The DSC did post some recent surveys around several districts. There was over 40 districts listed. And the average tuition is about $3,200. And there are more and more districts that are exploring what universal full-day kindergarten would do and so forth in this area. There are grants available, and I can certainly look further into the grant programs. My understanding is, as Mr. Webster said, that there are very strict eligibility requirements and length of time for districts trying to get new into the grant program. I do believe there are some districts that got involved very early on and are grandfathered, and they will continue to receive grant funding on an annual basis. But I know at this time, to opt into that program and to get selected as an eligible district for grant funding, there is a length of period of time.
And the deadline's already passed for next school year.
Correct, and you don't know how long it's going to continue. So then there could be a situation where you would have to shift a pretty significant burden into the general fund to continue the same level of services. And I have read recently, there's been some recent publications, information that the DSC has posted that some of these grant programs and this grant funding is in danger of going away entirely. So you could have some districts out now that I know Melrose and Wilmington, who are part of those grandfathered districts in the area that have been relying on these grant programs heavily, and they're one of the few districts in the area that, as a result, do not have to offer tuition because of the grant funding, but there's potential of this grant funding going away entirely, and that some of these districts that have relied on that heavily for a number of years are trying to figure out how they would deal with that if that does happen. I think there was a question.
I just have a point that if all the surrounding communities, it seemed like they're trying to go to a reduced rate or free tuition, that what makes North Reading attractive to younger families looking to move into the area.
Yeah, I know it's interesting that the chart that you gave us, some of the surrounding contiguous communities, not Andover and Reading, are all right about where we are.
But they're looking into
At about 4,000.
But they're looking into going to free. There's like when we
North
get our
Andover
races.
is free.
So, correct, so North Andover this year
Yeah,
was
North
the first
Andover,
year.
and they had, I need to get more information, but they had, I think over the course of 2 or 3 years, various budget changes that happened in preparation of
Yeah.
fully going free this year.
Yeah, can we do like a gradation?
See, one thing with North End, one of the things is the demographic issue. We basically have, we're not zero, we have a very small percentage of families living under the whatever the poverty level is in Massachusetts. I know North Andover has a much bigger percentage. That does help them in terms of if they're getting grants or something. But I know that's one of the issues when we apply for grants, is that's held against us because of our median family.
Yeah, I don't know if they're getting grants. I don't know that they're not, but when I looked into it, it didn't.
Yeah, there are a few communities
Come out
in
that
this
they were.
area. North Andover is one, Stoneham is another that have moved to that. It certainly, it prevents the funding challenge no matter which community you're in.
Right.
North Reading.
Go ahead, Julie.
Would be a challenge.
Why don't we offer a payment plan?
So,
There is. I was never informed of a payment plan ever.
so payment plans,
The only reason I ask is that previously I was in Tewksbury, and they had a 10-month payment plan that was,
right.
I mean, laid out for people. And I've talked to a couple families of kindergarten children this year who said, if there was a payment plan, I could have taken advantage of it. I don't have $4,000 by October 1st to pay for kindergarten.
There has been cases where we have absolutely, it's more given currently.
I've
case
never
by
heard it
case basis.
publicized, that's my concern.
But we try to encourage families to look to use the online credit card payment option that's available first. Then that, in a sense, would offer a payment.
I mean, my question is, I don't know any other district that does not offer a payment plan, no interest, no
Yeah.
payment plan.
We do offer.
Do you know any that do?
Pardon me?
Do you know any that do?
Yeah,
Offer
just
payment plan, other than Tewksbury? Or?
Oh, no, everyone that I know
Okay.
that offer, that have for paid
We
full
do,
tuition.
it is,
not bad.
they have been given, in the last couple of years, I know, certain, and we do offer the credit card payment option, so that's always an option that's given to families. We did add, there is some financial assistance for some families in need as well, that's offered for reduced, half.
But I think the important thing to remember is it is a funding issue for the school
Right.
district. But you've raised some good points, and the payment plan's a good point.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment to
go
the
ahead.
question? I actually have a question. So I noticed, thank you for this is great. You had mentioned sort of gradation or sort of, well, we sort of is phasing in a program or something like that in a budget. And for me, budget is always about what are our priorities. And over the last 5+ years that I've been on this committee, we've funded a level service budget or less. I don't think of it as a full, like what we had last year. So for us to make changes to that type of budget, we would need to reprioritize the things that we do fund every year. And we have our strategic plan, which includes many things, but this is not, as far as I understand, an explicit goal that we've stated other than to reduce fees. I think this is an important step, but I'm wondering about, as I see here, this is my question back to you, some of these communities have formed committees. And to me, phasing in something that is important to the community requires community action, which is here tonight, and then trying to figure out the best way to make this happen. It won't happen overnight because clearly fiscal constraints are hitting every budget, and every community is different in what they prioritize to fund. So the payment plan is great, but it still doesn't address the underlying issue, which is access to full-day kindergarten. And we certainly, as we've expressed this evening, want to eliminate as many fees as possible and want to make sure that students have access to the education that they deserve. This is North Reading, and we care about that kind of thing. So my question back to you is, have you considered proposing some kind of committee to do this? And if so, what would that look like?
Well, that was actually my question to you.
Oh,
And that was, like, would you be interested in how would we better go about it?
Well,
And
again,
is that the best
I think
next step?
one of the things we could do is obviously take under advisement what you guys have brought to the table tonight. And what I'd ask John to do is to set up maybe our first meeting in January. We'll start to get into the budget process a little bit in January too. But ask John maybe our first meeting in January to put this back on the agenda and leave your information with John so we can get back to you guys. See what you can come up with, and we'll see what we can come up with. If we can maybe form some type of a committee or subcommittee. Again, I think Karen hit the nail on the head. The funding, the payment plan's great, but it doesn't deal with the underlying problem, which is the cost. And I'm going to tell you right now, the cost is $385,000 now. If you have free kindergarten, full-day kindergarten, it's going to be well in excess of
So it's
$385,000.
$385,000 to support the 5 current full-day classes that are in there. So if you
Correct.
assumed all, so how many are there total district-wise
I
kindergarten
think there's
classes?
106 students.
There
right
were
now.
162 kindergarten students, and there are 106 in the program. So that'd be 56 more that would, well, maybe not all of them would want to go.
So is there one half-day class at each?
Yes.
Yes.
So it would
One
be helpful to
half-day.
understand if we, in an ideal world, could get to free full day, like what would the additional budget be needed to fund those 3 half-day classes then? So it's $385 to fund the current full day, but then if we were gonna add on additional budget,
It would be 3 more classes. Three
what does
more.
that translate into dollars? That would need to be
Well,
found.
it'd be 1.5 more teachers and then 3.0 more paraprofessionals.
But I
So-
don't understand what that means from a budget.
Well, we'd have to.
Well, we'd have to, that's what I'm saying.
That's what we'd have, that's what a kindergarten task force would then investigate.
Okay.
Yeah.
The cost that would be incurred to increase to all full day, and then explore how do you mitigate the cost impact to the district and still go forward.
So I want to just ask a question though. So the tuition is clearly an issue here, and I understand that, and I think we ought to look into that. But the other question is on the lottery. I guess I just don't know what, if we have to stick with this system, I don't know what the options are with the lottery. Once you get to 5 classes that have, say, 22 kids or 20 kids, we can't start a new section with 3 kids.
Or 12, as of this year.
Or 12.
Can't
Right.
have any class of 12.
I think we have to have like 15 at least to 19, so.
And I think transportation then becomes an issue too, as far as moving kids to different schools, right?
It's fine, because my daughter was on the waiting list this year, and she ended up getting placed in her school, in our home school, the little school, but it was a really frustrating process to go through because we had her signed up at the half day, and then we were able, we could pay the $300 for the bus fee, so she was going to be bused to another additional private kindergarten program, because she's ready for full day. I was ready for her to be in a full day program. And about 3 weeks before, a spot opened up at the Hood, which was fantastic. So that was going to be what was going to happen. And then about a week and a half before, a spot opened up at the Little, which was fantastic. I mean, everything ended up working out fantastic in the way it should be. But it was really difficult to get, it's such a huge transition. And there were a lot of tears over, trying to get her prepared for that. And we live a block from the Little school. And, in February during orientation, they were like, bring your child to the school, let them become familiar with the area. And it was really, really difficult to be able to do that with the number of changes that took place before that happened. And I know there are other families that were in the same, that didn't end up as fortunate as we were. And no one could have been, Principal Molly and the staff at the Little school was unbelievable, and I can't say enough good things about them, but it was one of the most frustrating processes that I've ever been.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we get this on as a formal agenda item? Because we are doing this as public input and exchange of information tonight. Let's get it on the agenda for January. And let's see what we can come up with. And again, I'd like you to stay in communication with Mr. Bernard, who's going to be the superintendent as of Friday, and see if there's some way we can resolve this. Again, I think it's a financial issue, and I think potentially you run into the same thing on the other end now at the high school level with parents paying $400 and then $200 and then $100 for kids to play sports. It's the same thing. We hate doing that, but it's the only way that we can preserve some of these programs, as Karen pointed out, we've been level funding our budget for the last 4 years. So, a couple more questions and we'll move on. Go ahead, Julie.
I know when I taught in Melrose, the way they have a similar full day pay, half day free program, they offer like a first choice, second choice, so you never know at registration what school you'll be attending. So they also don't have busing issues. It's everyone pretty much walks or gets a drive to school. So essentially, you could be placed, like the situation that happened this past year, you could have been placed at the Hood, even though Little is your technically your school district, and then once you move on to first grade, you'd go back to your home district. I don't know if people would be in favor of something like that.
They do that. They do that.
It's pretty much like this.
But on the offset, like, people didn't know that that was going to happen, and I think that caused a lot of chaos for parents, that they would then be offered another school, and then they felt that they had to change just to get in the program. Like, if you just kind of did it on the registration form.
I think when you
It's
when
your
you're
first
choice,
They tell you.
sign up, it says on the form, would you be open to your child going to another school if your homeschool isn't available?
Okay, any other comments?
Okay, I just have two comments. One is towards the strategic plan that you were talking about. And I was trying to look on the website because I had heard information that reducing, I don't know how to word this, but reducing the kindergarten budget was part of your strategic plan. That's what I had heard. But then when I looked on the website and found the strategic plan, I couldn't find it. So maybe I was missing.
It's one of the budget goals of the school.
It was or was not?
It is.
It is, so.
A budget goal.
Oh, it's a budget goal of the school only, but not of the school district.
But it's not as part of NRPS 26.
Okay, all right.
Let me say this. It's a budget goal that every year, including this year, we are very close to taking it off because realistically, we haven't been able to attain it. But we do keep it on, and it's not just for kindergarten, it's for busing, it's for athletics, it's for activities, it's for everything. But when you're level funding a budget every year, you're gonna have to rob Peter to pay Paul. You're gonna have to make adjustments in your budget.
But my second question was for this January committee, do you want us to do something to prep for the January committee, or just want us to lay low? Do you want
No, I want you to lay low.
Momentum's going, so
I think
kind of.
what I'd like to see is an exchange of information. If you have some ideas, if you have some thoughts about this, convey them to Mr. Bernard, and we'll get that in advance. And like I said, we can kind of incorporate this discussion into our budget discussions in January.
Okay.
I just want to wrap this up. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Good. One
Go ahead.
more. We wanted this to be as collaborative and two-way street here. We're not doing any sort of accusatory. We just want to work together and try
Oh,
to,
absolutely.
so.
Right.
Absolutely. But, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, basically what we need is about another $1 million.
Oh, I'll go get them. Okay. I have
$1
that.
million, we can get rid of the sports fees and sports and activities fees, we can pay for.
But every year.
Kindergarten,
Right.
you know, we can fill out, you know, the program that we've got laid out ahead of us and be able to do those things that we need to do. There isn't another $1 million in there.
Now, there's 90 of you guys up there, it's $111,000, it's just rounded up.
And we all pay taxes, and we know that we are stretched. So,
No, you raised a good point, and like I said, we need to communicate with
We
Ms.
will.
Bernard,
Absolutely.
get an exchange of information, we'll get this back on the agenda. Jeter, I'm not gonna promise you we're gonna be able to solve this
No,
problem.
we
It's
just wanted to
certainly
show you that we're concerned and we want to work with this to find some kind of solutions, so.
Okay. Go ahead,
The
last one.
payment option with the credit cards, I understand the budget, so it seems like you know, we're gonna do what we can and need and, you know, try to figure this out, but it seems like, you know, it's money and it's hard. But the credit card option, is that still like the $2,000 payments in those couple of months?
Correct, so.
So the only thing like I was thinking is that as an option, it's just looking at, we can talk more, but like, can you do $1,000 over the year? Because
That's
$2,000.
that's something we can, that's something.
So that's something to
we can
talk
look at.
about? Okay.
Part of the way we've structured it as we've structured it, and we encourage the credit card online payments and try to do it on a case-by-case basis, is part of it really is a cash flow issue, is we're paying payroll
Right, you guys
directly
have
from
to
the.
plan for that to come in later in the
Right,
year as opposed to
correct, so that's
December.
why it's structured the way quarterly, the way
Right.
it is, so.
But it's hard to dish out $2,000
Right.
and then $2,000 in December, so maybe that's something we can talk about and
Sure.
plan for that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
then.
I think if we could swing it, I would actively support a
Yeah,
payment
those are-
plan that's more generous
Affordable.
for the residents, more affordable, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on the 10-month payment plan for college right now. At the end of the 10 months, I'm just as broke as I
Well,
would have been if I
private
paid the whole
preschool
thing
does
the
that
first month,
too.
so.
So anyone coming out of private preschool into full-day kindergarten is most likely used to being on a 10-month payment plan too.
Yeah.
So if we could structure it where someone who was coming in from private preschool could, continue sort of a similar payment plan, it wouldn't be such a hardship on the family.
Or perhaps look at, contact other districts and see how they manage the cash flow on those payment plans.
Okay, we'll take this under advisement and we'll set up something for January.
Thank you
Very
very
much.
much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is our MSBA SSBC update. I'll ask Cliff and Janine, you guys have anything you want to add about, Kathy was not at the meeting last week, so you want to fill in the public meeting? Oh, that's right, she wasn't there. We got our regular construction report. The construction right now is focused almost entirely on the middle school. Anybody that's been outside and has seen the middle school, we're very, very close to being finished with the demolition aspect of the middle school project. The steel is in. They are erecting steel at the middle school. You can see it taking shape. The front entrance is now taking shape. The hope is that they're going to get the steel up and hopefully a roof on the middle school prior to the winter weather setting in. So we, as on schedule as we can be this far in advance, we're on schedule at the middle school. The high school, there is a punch list that's been developed both by our architect and by the secondary school building committee with the assistance of the school administration. That punch list is being reviewed and that's being worked on as we speak. We hope to have a report on October 28th, the status of the punch list. I don't think there's any big change on us in front of us. I think there are a few regarding some of the structural issues at the middle school, but all in all, everything is moving forward on schedule and on budget. Cliff?
Oh, that's about where it is. There's brickwork is started all the way around the walls where there are walls. There are some areas where we don't have walls started yet. But that's a good sign. They are putting steel up. They've got a lot of piping in the floor, a lot of trenches that have been opened up to put piping in place for utilities. Foundations for walls, foundations for columns to hold the steel. Good progress on the middle school, and I think that we're really looking to get it closed in before winter. That's a critical schedule item.
And obviously our goal is to have the middle school open the first week of September. September, and hopefully we'll be able to do the same there. I think as everybody knows, if we do get in there in September, the phasing will be complete at the middle school, which is currently now at the old high school, back into the new middle school. At that point in time, we can start the demolition of the high school and the final phase of the project, which will be the construction of the playing fields, the parking lots, and the finished landscaping. And hopefully that's all going to be done by the end of 2015. So.
Jay has a question.
No?
What, in terms of the punch list items for the high school, what kind of timetable are we on? Because I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen much progress made on the list of items.
What we did at the SSBC meeting last Tuesday was we presented a lengthy and detailed punch list from our perspective, particularly coming from the high school administration. That punch list was presented to our project manager. A copy was given to our architect and a copy to our construction team, Gil Bain. We asked them to respond to each and every one of the punch list items in writing by October 28th, which is the date of our next secondary school building committee meeting. The punch list is not unusual. I think some of the punch list items probably were going to have to be addressed during school vacation in December, and maybe even beyond that. But what we're looking for is a written response from our professionals, from our project manager. And at that point in time, we've asked them for progress too, as to when these things, we can expect them to be completed.
Can I ask John a question? I know the lift is supposed to be coming in tomorrow, is it, for the Performing Arts Center? Are we sure that's coming in, and is that on schedule as far as you know?
Its final installation is slated for October 16th.
16th, so Thursday.
Correct.
And then the Young Americans will be here Saturday?
They'll be here Saturday preliminarily, their work will start on Sunday.
So that should be ready to go then?
That'll be our first major production in the new theater, will be the Young Americans.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments on the building project? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the policy manual review. We're reviewing policy LEC and the regulations LECR. And this is dealing with relations with booster and support organizations. We did have some minor changes recommended at the first reading. Any comments? Michael, do you want to take the floor on this?
Yeah, sure. What we did after the last school committee meeting is went back and made and addressed some of the comments that were discussed at the last meeting. Those comments were highlighted in red fonts in the copy that you received this evening in your packet. They were mainly what's going to be found highlighted in the regulation document on page 3, section 5.1 under fundraising. We have added an option that booster and support organizations would have the flexibility to amend their set list of activities throughout the school year that they would submit to the superintendent. And then again under section 5.3, under the section for fundraising, we added a sentence at the end that requested all donors or potential donors that's made aware that the student participation in that fundraising activity is certainly voluntary, and it's made clear to the donors that their participation is on behalf of that support organization and not on behalf of the North Reading Public Schools. The policy itself, there was some added language in the second paragraph to remain consistent with what was stated in the detailed regulations. I do believe there's a need for another change in reviewing the document before the meeting this evening. I do believe there's a sentence in the opening first paragraph of the introductions of the regulations that has to be incorporated into the policy itself.
This isn't in the notes.
And I think it can be addressed by making a small change to the first sentence in the actual policy to incorporate the quote that is found in the first paragraph under the introduction.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay. Comments or questions from the committee?
I have a few minor issues. On the policy itself, we say, the last sentence, further, the superintendent of schools will present changes being implemented in the process. It seems to read better to me if it says, further, the superintendent of schools will present proposed changes in the process prior to their actual implementation to the North Reading School Committee. So we'll present proposed changes, get rid of being implemented. That seems to make more sense and reads better. In the regulations, we continually refer to them as guidelines. Don't we want to call them regulations, or do we want to call them guidelines?
in the second paragraph, in light of the policy, the following guidelines have been developed. Because it
I
is,
think
these are
regulations is more
regulations,
appropriate.
it's LEC-R
Right.
for regulations, right?
Yeah.
So I would do a global search and replace on guidelines
Yeah,
for regulations.
Regulations, yeah.
So, yeah, that was the intent of the last discussion as well. So-
And then the other thing I had was under 8.1. This is the thing I think I brought up the last time. It says North Reading Public Schools asks that any new booster and support organizations submit an application for recognition. Since these regulations are new, I would like that to say North Reading Public Schools asks that any booster and support organization submit an application for recognition.
Is ask the right word? What do you mean? Is the right word ask them or require them to?
I think we should require them to support,
To file.
submit an application, even existing ones, because we haven't recognized
Right.
a lot of these existing organizations. So it shouldn't just say new, it should be,
Right, yeah, I think in a sense.
I think everybody
if these
needs
go
to-
through, everyone would be considered new at that point,
Yeah.
fall, but to make it,
but what I'm concerned about is some organization's gonna say, we're not new, we don't have to submit anything to you.
So take out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Existing
I think so.
organizations.
Just make it universal to begin with. That's
So I think you take out the word new,
provides, yeah,
change that to requires.
and then that's it.
Okay. Any other comments? Karen?
I am principally opposed to this policy in general, so I'm not voting for it, but I'm happy to support what Mel said.
Okay. Cliff? No, I'm fine with those changes. Janine? Okay. Michael, did you have something else?
no,
Okay. Did I see a hand up? Yes, ma'am.
Tracy Conlon, I'm with the BPO. I know I spoke before. I just want to go on record again saying that I don't think the school committee has the authority to issue regulations. The point that Mr. Webster made, I will make too. You've got regulations up top, you've got guidelines in the middle. Apparently you're going to make these regulations. So the first thing I would say is, I'm looking at, there's two documents that I got. There's a single page that has LEC,
That's the
CFP.
policy, right? That's the policy, yeah.
Okay, so that says, booster proposed plans projects must be evaluated and promoted in light of their stated contribution. Evaluated by the school committee, I'm assuming that means. And if a BPO or a booster group plans an activity that the school committee doesn't favor the evaluation, what happens then? Can the school committee?
I hope there'll be open communications. We're not trying to be adversarial here. We're not trying to set up any roadblocks or obstacles. We greatly appreciate all the contributions that are made by the organizations. So we're just trying to get, in light of recent developments, we're trying to get a handle on this and make sure that everybody's on the same page. That if we're going to have a relationship with these organizations, that we understand where the money's coming from and how it's being funded, and what's being done for internal controls and checks and things like that. That's all. But again, I think you're making a little bit too much out of this. I do think that communication is going to be the key. I know Michael's willing to work with any of the organizations, and I just don't see the obstacles that you think.
I know you don't see that, but I think it's important for me to publicly state that we do have a problem with the school committee issuing regulations. I think they should be voluntary guidelines. And the sole recourse of the school committee, if the groups don't follow your guidelines or your regulations, is that the school committee doesn't accept the funds.
Yeah, I don't want to sound that callous, but yeah, that's right.
Okay, so to me, it could be just guidelines that we can follow, and if we follow them, you get the money, and if we're not following them, you don't take the money. I don't see the need for issuing regulations, and there's also some other, it sounds like you don't want to hear me out, but there's some others, things that go, I don't like your disclaimer, and there's
The
a
disclaimer
part
that
in here
we're not
where you say,
responsible for your fundraising?
what's that?
The disclaimer that says we're not responsible for any issues that arise from your fundraising?
Yeah, you're going to
Well,
issue
why
us.
shouldn't it be a disclaimer? We have nothing to do with your fundraising. That's the point.
But you are, you're regulating
No,
it
we're
now.
not. You don't understand. We have some runaway issues with booster groups right now. Runaway
I know.
issues
that we have no control of. We need to do something
And
to
you do
get
it,
this under
you do it in
control.
the first paragraph where you say, register as a nonprofit and file the proper things. And once
Right.
you have the groups do that, and I suggest you do have them do that, that's the end of it. Then you don't, then there's stuff we are obligated to do anyway, and the system sort of takes care of itself.
Well, again, I think we've had this debate before, as you suggested, and we can agree to disagree. This is on second reading. We've heard you. We understand where you're coming from. But this has been refined from a first reading that was nothing close to what we have now. I think there's a majority of the school committee that's in favor of moving forward with this. So,
I do wanna
There's
ask
just
a
two
que-
other points I'd like to.
Can I ask you a question before you, I want to ask you a
Yeah.
question. So one, I want to answer your thing about the issue you raised about the projects or activities must be evaluated and promoted in light of their contribution, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be in the school committee forever, at least I hope, but, the way I'm reading, that is, if a group comes to us and says, we're going to raise money to, do something crazy, we as a school committee probably not going to accept that. Personally, I'm not looking at what event you're holding, whether you're doing a trivia night, or I don't care. I just want to make sure that the money is going.
But you're still giving yourself authority, even if it comes to you with something 5-10 years from now, comes to you something that's not outlandish, you've given yourselves the ability to say yay or nay, and it's a bad precedent.
okay, thank you. Go ahead, make your comments.
In 4.2, you have groups agreeing to things. The wording of that is just awkward, where we can't, you're unilaterally telling us we agreed to do stuff. And then in 6.2, staff may make requests to the booster or parent organizations. Staff, is that staff of school? Is that school committee? Can school committee say, hey, we'd like new sodding?
I'm sorry, I didn't see the
Which
section.
paragraph?
6.2. And also, the document doesn't tell us how funds should be donated.
Yes, it does.
Well, literally, do we have to,
It says the funds should be, with a dedicated purpose, those funds should be then submitted to the school department with a dedicated purpose of what they're to pay
so
for.
we are still giving a check to Mr. Clean? Because isn't he an employee that we're not supposed to give money to? I just literally don't know. This would be the document to lay it out how we're physically supposed to do that, and also how the school committee accepts. Does there have to be a booster person here at a meeting?
No.
Yeah, well, this is stuff that's still kind of unclear.
Well, I think what we can do is, again, we'll take the time, or Mr. Conlon take the time to sit down with you and go through this so that there's no misunderstanding.
Well, you said last time you were going to reach out to the groups, and I know we weren't contacted, so I feel like you guys are going to do it without our input.
Go ahead, Dan.
We held as I do 6 times a year, we held a meeting with all the chairs and vice chairs of all of the parent associations across the district. As a matter of fact, the Batchelder Parent Organization brought the treasurer of the organization to the meeting. So I got a request from one of the officers to bring the treasurer. So that person was present at
Parent
that.
advisory meeting, is that?
Yes, the parent
Was there
advisory.
discussion, Kathy, about this?
Yes, in fact, Michael came and
Okay,
made
all
a
right,
presentation.
good. What I'm going to do now is ask for a motion to approve the second reading. Motion moves. Cliff, second? Second. I motion by Cliff, a second by Mel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, motion carries by a vote of 4-1. 4-1. Okay. Thank you, and again, we'll be glad to take whatever time is necessary for you to meet, so there's no misunderstanding about how we're going to proceed. Marcy?
Is this draft policy on the school department website?
Michael?
It's not, now that it's been approved through second reading,
So is this
certainly
the
happy
final
to do that.
approval?
This is the final approval.
Yeah.
So we can put it on the
I will
website.
put it on the business department page of the website next week.
Okay.
It will also be added to the school committee page under the policy manual. That's updated as soon as new policies are approved at second reading.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the annual student council trip to the Cape. And Kathy, you're going to present on this?
Yes, in your packet are documents articulating the MASC State Conference in Hyannis. And Miss Amy St. Arnaud, who is the student council advisor, submitted her letter for approval. The trip will take place March 11th to the 13th, 2015, at the Resort and Conference Center at Hyannis and Radisson Hotel in Hyannis. There will be 2 faculty members, Kim Smith, Brown, and Michelle Fitzpatrick, who will chaperone 12 participating students. All of the arrangements are similar to what has taken place in the past regarding the annual conference. This is a leadership conference for our students. They have come back here to report to you that they have found this to be most beneficial. Many of our students actually presented this conference because they've been tapped as leaders throughout the region. And so the request is for the school committee to approve this annual conference that will take place. The cost of the trip will be about $350 per student. This includes the rental of the van, accommodations, workshops, and all meals except lunch on the way to and from the conference. And so there are multiple fundraising efforts that take place to defray the cost of the trip.
Questions or comments from the committee? Again, it's a trip that I don't know how far back it goes, Kathy, but it's been a while.
A long time.
that we've been doing this. Yeah.
Second.
Motion by Cliff, second by Karen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries by a vote of 5 to 0. Next on the agenda is our policy manual review, one of our favorite things. It's a first reading. Again, this is the policy subcommittee that brought this forward. Who wants to speak on behalf of this? Is it you, Cliff?
Yeah, we've had some questions about naming, and we've come up with a new a policy for that.
Okay, and again, just for background purposes, this is the policy relating to the naming of schools, and I think everybody's aware of the fact that they went to town meeting last week, that there was an article in the town meeting warrant, it was a citizen's petition that was put forward to name the middle school after Charlie Jones. As a result of some work that town council did, town council came back and reported that in order to do that, it had to be approved by the school committee first, and then a vote of town meeting to approve the naming of any school or any part of the school. So what we tried to do is what we represented to the people that had moved this article forward, that we would take a look at our policy, and our policy goes all the way back to 1974. And it's been consistent for the last 40 years, and it essentially says that we will not name or cannot name a middle school or a high school after an individual. So we wanted to take a look at that. My vision was to, before we amend or change our policy at all, is to have some type of public input, set up some type of a public hearing. And I know the subcommittee's done some work on this, so Cliff, if you wanted to summarize the proposal that the subcommittee has come up with.
We came up with a fairly substantial extension of the existing policy, and it borrowed from other communities. And basically what it does is it provides a criteria for naming, and would require in the process that there would be a screening committee of 9 representatives representing sort of a broad interest within the community, and that screening committee would come up with names from the community from a variety of sources, and would then come forward with nominations to a process, and it outlines the process, and also provides some criteria for those potential names, so we're not casting it too wide. But that's what the policy goes through and presents.
Okay. Comments from the committee?
I have a question.
Karen?
What was the rationale for the requirement that the person must be deceased? Did that come from a different policy? What were your thoughts on that?
So there'll be no speeches.
Well, there's a couple of things behind that. One of them is that we all are familiar with circumstances where someone's been sort of an outstanding individual through their life, and they're still living, and then they do some terrible thing. You know, if we provided the name on some school facility and named some school facility for that individual, and then they did something terrible, then we would kind of have a problem. And the second thing is that when you name a living person, there's always going to be a conflict with other living persons who feel that they perhaps have done every bit as much or maybe more, and so that it sets up a conflict. There's a lot of people that will question. But once the individual is deceased, then those problems go away.
Okay, that was one question. My second question is, how consistent is this with Parks and Rec and our policies around naming town-owned fields? I just wondered if they were consistent.
I don't know what their policy is.
I just happened to speak with Rita Bullen a couple weeks ago, and they mentioned they have guidelines as well. And I've never seen them, and I wasn't sure if this was informed by that or if it will be worth taking a look at to making sure that they are consistent. I don't know, I'm just suggesting. I mean, Rita Mullen is alive and has a field named after her, so there's an inconsistency already.
Correct.
But,
So we're either gonna have to kill or change the name of the field.
Yeah.
Well, there are a number of things that have been named that are named for people who are still living, or were still living at the time that they were named. But you know, we were tasked with the idea of coming up with a policy that made some sense, and this to us made some sense.
Gotcha.
Provided you know there's a whole list of criteria that might be used in the process of sorting out what names might be appropriate, or what you know, whether a name was appropriate for a particular facility. So,
Thank you for that, for the work. Mel?
Is the current policy called naming of fields and special facilities? Why is it special? Because we're talking about fields and school buildings, correct?
You're talking in this proposal.
Yeah, no, why is it special facilities?
I believe it's like the Performing Arts Center, the gymnasium, or the court within the gymnasium.
Yeah, but see,
Special.
then where are the schools? Then this doesn't include school buildings. If we're talking about fields and special facilities, this doesn't include the actual buildings.
The actual original policy is in black, and you can see that it has been retained in its entirety. It still does not allow for a middle school and a high school to be named in North Reading.
See, go ahead, no, I don't want to interrupt, go ahead.
I just don't know why we're calling it special facilities. I think it should say naming of fields and facilities. I don't agree with the person must be deceased. I'm glad that I am 100% against ever naming the middle school or the high school after any person, thing, place other than North Reading, unless we grow big enough where we have 2 high schools and 2 middle schools, and we can then name them. If you have 1 middle school and 1 high school, I believe they should be called North Reading Middle School and North Reading High School. I pretty much like the rest of this. I just don't like the word special. I think it should be naming of fields and facilities. Although if we do keep this part in about the North Reading Middle School and High School not being named after anybody, that's not gonna change. That won't change our current issue related to the Charlie Jones. Although I do have some suggestions for what we could do, but I support not naming the middle school and high school after anybody.
Go ahead, Janine. Do you have? Well, I also support that. However, I envision this as a policy that would reflect what the law is. So to say that we will never name a middle school or high school after anybody, that's really up to the individual school committee, because they can change their policy, or they can reconsider it, or they can do whatever they want. I was looking for a very simple policy that would reflect what the actual law is, and that is that any naming rights for any school, for any section of the school, for any amenity to a school, for any playing field involving a school, by the school committee and approved by town meeting. That leaves it up to the sitting school committee as to whether or not they want to consider it. And that's my understanding what the law is now. They would have to have school committee approval and town meeting approval. The only thing I would put in there that I would include as part of that process would be that there'd be a public hearing regarding the naming of any school, a public input regarding the name of any school, a section of any school. That's all I was looking for. I wasn't looking for an elaborate change of policy, just something that would reflect what the current law is. We can continue to maintain the policy we have and say we'll never name a school building after anyone, but that doesn't mean anything because if you have 3 people sitting here that want to consider naming a school, they can do it.
Right, but as far as long as I'm on the committee, that's what I support.
I understand, but you can still support that with what I'm talking about. We can all support that individually, that the law allows the naming of a school if the school committee approves it, and if there's a vote of town meeting. And if your philosophy is you don't support that, then you don't have to vote to approve it. That's all. That's what I was looking at as a change of policy. What I would like to do, at the very least, because I think we made some representations, is to have some public input on this particular issue. So we have a first draft that we can at least work with. Schedule a meeting so that we can put the word out there that we get some public input on this policy and listen to what people have to say. And then we can go to a second reading, or we can do amendments consistent with a second reading. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Karen?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that we have put into this policy is that it would require a unanimous vote of the school committee to make a naming.
And again, that kind of a policy to me is just, it's only worth whatever 3 majority people sitting here say it is. Like I said, I was just trying to reflect what the law is, and I think the law is pretty clear. It has to be approved by the school committee, and it has to be approved by town meeting.
And it doesn't, it's just the majority of the school committee then.
Yeah.
Well,
That's-
to your point, then, if the majority of this school committee does not want to name the middle school and high school anything other than North Reading Middle School, High School,
Doesn't get
why
done.
do we have to change the policy, other than to amend it for other?
Again, I would amend it to reflect what the law is, what is legally required in order to do this, as opposed to the negative saying we can never do it.
In other words,
Actually, we can.
Jerry's saying take that part of the policy that says we won't name the middle school or high school after a person. It'll always be North Reading Middle School.
And you're gonna leave it up to whoever's sitting on this committee to make that decision. You know, there'll be a majority vote as to whether or not, just like they could change the current policy, those people that are sitting on the committee at that time would make the
Change the
decision.
policy at this point.
Yeah.
So if the majority of them don't want to change the policy right now, why change it?
If the majority don't want to change it, we're not going to change it. I'm just trying to argue on behalf of doing something, again, that reflects what the law is. It is a very simple, straightforward policy that allows every single member to vote their conscience at any point in time when the proposal comes up to name anything.
And we've kind of laid that footing, but we're leaving out that part of naming a single high school or a single middle school.
All right, and again, I don't want to repeat myself. I just envisioned this to do something that was straightforward and reflected the law of the land.
We attempted to get a process.
Yep, I can see that.
Developed.
I can see that.
There where you could invoke some public input.
Okay.
In the process of trying to name, and then of course, you know, it says unanimous, but to change this piece of paper takes a majority.
That's all.
So you can change the piece of paper to say a majority at any time. It just tries to provide a basis for the future. That's what the policy is.
Okay. Karen?
So I have a couple of points. One, the second sentence, further, the committee should not be influenced by X, Y, and Z personal prejudice, favoritism, political pressure, temporary popularity. That's an impossible statement. Everyone is influenced by politics, no matter what, small p politics even, in making these kinds of decisions. That doesn't make any sense to me. I support what Mel has said about defining the special facilities, making this, what is this applicable to, and defining things a little bit more clearly, even if we've already stated in other policies I also don't agree that the person must be deceased, and I also don't agree that they should just pay this limit of eligibility around long and faithful service as an employee, elected official, or appointed member of town committee. I think that's a little limiting, and I think we need to think about that. I would also want some input from the Board of Selectmen as well, and other community representatives around some ideas about who that person might be. I know in some of the places I've lived, there have been people who lived in the community, had no association with the school district whatsoever, but just made a contribution to the community and weren't an employee.
I can name one. John F. Kennedy, half the schools
Yeah.
in the 60s were named after John F. Kennedy, so.
Right, but that's also another consideration I would like input from the community about. Should we limit this to just people who live in North Reading or within residents?
Again, I'm
I don't know.
going to say it the last time, I don't know that we need any of this in the sense that if it's up to the school committee and the town meeting, all these things would be things you would take into consideration when considering somebody proposing. We're not unsoliciting people to come forward with naming rights. If somebody comes in front of us, as happened, then I think it's a question of whether or not the school committee, the majority of the school committee, is going to vote in favor of it. And if they do, then it has to go to town meeting, and town meeting has to vote in favor of it as well.
So I also agree with that. I just wanted to point out, I think there's a lot in here. I wouldn't even give sort of criteria in here, because the criteria will change depending on who's sitting here. So I would strike all of those items.
What I'd like to do, and again, I think what I discussed with some of the people who were advocates of the warrant article, is setting up an opportunity for them to come in and be heard. So, John, why don't we put it on an agenda? I want to give them enough time to get notified.
But here's my question, are we just having them come in to tell us again why the school should be named after Charlie
No,
Jones?
no,
Because that's
no.
brutal to me.
I'm not addressing this to them. I mean, anybody that has, I think what you're going to get is a lot of people that are in favor of exactly what you're saying, that are going to come in and need to be heard as well. I think a lot of people are going to come in and say, we shouldn't do this. And I think we need to have that type of an exchange or that type of give and take. So I'd like to get it out there so everybody can come in and be heard. And hold off on voting on this first reading unless you want to make changes to this first reading and bring it back for a second reading.
No, I think it's a good starting point, and I think the policy subcommittee will look so hard.
Yeah.
And I do like the second page, the regulations, where they talk about a screening committee of 9 representatives, and I think all of that is, personally, I like the ideas. But I think
Are you opposed to getting some public input, or do you want to?
We need it. I think we need it.
I think we owe it to people to be able to come in.
You suggesting push 2 meetings out?
Yeah, I think just to get the word out that, because I think there are a lot of people that come in here and support exactly what I think Mel and.
But so the public input is for them to come in and give us some ideas about how we should go about naming schools and facilities.
Yeah.
That,
Not about
not
specific,
specifically
no,
about, okay.
absolutely
that's-
not, absolutely not, we've already been through that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good with that.
Okay.
Can we also ask the Parks and Rec people for their
Well,
policies?
that's a good idea too. Yeah, it's a good Parks and Rec to ask for.
Ask Parks and Rec, as long as they're not Chinese.
Right,
They won't. We didn't promise.
Okay, so we're going to set that up, John, for some time. So, minutes. We have proposed for approval of the executive session minutes from August 25th, 2014.
Move to approve.
For a second.
Somebody second our vote.
Okay, motion by Mel and a second by Cliff to approve the August 25th, 2014 executive session minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries 5-0. August 25th, 2014 open session.
Second.
We have a motion by Cliff and a second by Mel. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. We have the September 3rd, 2014 open session minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Cliff, a second by Mel. No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, no.
You
Oh,
can't,
gotta
I'll
change.
I can't
second it.
second. I wasn't
will
here.
second
You
it.
weren't here. I've been meaning to talk to you. All right. So we have a motion by Cliff and a second by Karen. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
One
None.
abstention.
One abstention. 4 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. September 8th, executive session minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Cliff, second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. And finally, September 8th, 2014 open session minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion by Cliff,
Second.
Never mind,
No, I
Mel.
think actually Mel, you beat her up.
All right, okay, thank you.
Second to Mel. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries by a vote of 5 to 0. We have no budget date at this time. We do have a significant staffing change. I'd ask the superintendent to fill us in on that.
Yes, the coordinator of digital learning has resigned, so that position is open and the position has been posted. And I will be talking about the timeline for the search during my administrative report.
Okay, thank you. Bids and donations. We have a couple. First of all, the Little School, Christine Wally has requested school committee accept the following donation. It's a PTO donation of $440 to support the cost of transportation for a kindergarten field trip to Small Lake Farm. Any further comment on that, Kathy? Okay, looking for a motion to accept with gratitude.
Move to accept with gratitude.
Second.
Okay, motion by Cliff, second by Karen. And again, I'm very thankful for the donations from the PTOs. But again, with that, let's go. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries 5 to 0. We also have a request from Athletic Director Dave Johnson requesting the school committee accept the following donation, and that's the New England Car Wash Association donation of $168.20 in support of the operating cheerleading team.
Move to approve with gratitude.
Second.
Motion by Cliff, a second by Karen. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries 5 to 0. Subcommittee reports. Policy Subcommittee met on Thursday, October 2nd. Cliff, did we go over everything?
You did it.
Okay, we've already talked about that, both policies. Finance Planning Team met on Friday. Cliff was present, I was present, Kathy was present. We talked about revenue projections. It's still very early in the budget season. We also talked about the school, the punch list. What else was of significance? Kathy, anything else you can think of?
Budget timeline.
Oh, right, exactly, yeah. We went over the budget timeline, which is primarily the town's budget timeline, but I think it was coordinated very well with Michael and the school committee's budget timeline. Cliff, anything else? It was a pretty quick meeting, I think it was a short meeting, yeah.
Mr. Prisco ran the meeting.
Mr. Prisco ran the meeting, yeah. Okay, the subcommittee schedule, we have.
I do want to report on the NORCAM meeting.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm hoping that NORCAM and the companies building our school can come to a meeting of the minds at some point and figure out what needs to be done to get the cameras in this school, because there's a great deal of unhappiness at NORCAM, and I'm going to say I don't blame them. And they're close to the point of pulling back the approximately $100,000 in equipment they're going to donate to us because of the frustration. Rob Carboni has had several conversations with Representative Durham Whittier. He's been here with the technology person. There's all kinds of back and forth and charges and allegations that they're changing this, they're not changing that. And it's to the point where NORCAM is going to just not donate the equipment. And that would be a shame. And, you know, from sitting there, and we started this thing, we had a special meeting back in February sometime, February, March, and everything appeared to be laid out. And here we are in October, and there's still, the only thing that's wired is the gym. The only thing that's wired for a camera is the gym.
I don't even know if it's wired. The infrastructure is in to provide the wiring in the gymnasium.
Correct, that's it.
That's done. It's not done in this room, and it's not done in the theater.
Right. And we're going to lose $100,000 worth of equipment if that's not.
I think the next opportunity we have to discuss this, Cliff and I will probably be at the meeting Thursday, Cliff, right? The construction meeting. So we'll certainly raise this, try to get to the bottom of it. We did discuss this at the last SSBC meeting, and of course, NORCAM wasn't represented.
Right.
And I don't think you were there, Mel.
No, I wasn't there.
And what happened was, our architect said that there was a breakdown in communication with NORCAM. So we want to try to bend that if we can. As Mel says, we need the equipment, we want the equipment. And we've got already part of the infrastructure in, at least in the gymnasium, so.
Someone needs to mediate that situation.
Well, I was just about to volunteer.
I've tried, and there's, you know, if
Well,
someone
Mel's
can
the
do it-
representative.
No, if someone can do it, fine, because you try to mediate, and then you get two stories, and it's just not going anywhere.
Well, again, I'll say this as well. The punch list that we provided last Tuesday to our project manager included this issue.
Okay.
It was on the list.
Okay.
It was on my list, actually. So I think that it's being addressed. But Cliff, let's do this as a reminder on Thursday.
Yes.
I'd like to make sure that this committee supports me as stepping into the middle of this quagmire.
Yep.
And make that announcement on Thursday morning.
They know the cameras.
Whenever we have another meeting with NORCAM or the architect about cameras, that they gotta get me involved.
That's a good idea, and
And,
there's frustrations on both sides, I understand that, but it's dragging on, and shouldn't be.
It's
No, it should.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
The plans indicate that the stuff is in, and I've seen the conduit for the fiber optic in this room before there was ceiling. I've seen it with my own eyes. So I'm questioning quite a little bit of what's being said.
Well, let's get to the bottom.
We need to get to the bottom of it,
Okay.
and I think I'm capable.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Subcommittee meetings, athletic subcommittee scheduled for October 21st at 12:30. The finance planning meeting, the next meeting is November 14th at 8:15 a.m. We have to determine the next meeting for policy subcommittee and the NORCAM.
The 23rd.
The policy subcommittee is meeting on October 30th.
October 30th.
Correct.
Okay.
NORCAM's the 23rd.
And the NORCAM meeting is the 23rd at 7 p.m.?
Yes.
So those are the future subcommittee meetings. We have the October 1st, the official enrollment. I'm not sure who's going to report on that, Kathy or John. Kathy?
Yes, the official October 1 enrollment is included in your packet. The numbers include those students in attendance in the North Reading Public Schools as of October 1st. The enrollment does not include students enrolled in out-of-district programs and special education collaboratives. So there is a separate report included in your packet with this additional information. So what I provided for you was a comparison between the projected enrollments that we used during the budget process and the actual enrollments of October 1st. So you can see that we were pretty close. When you take a look at the elementary schools, you can see that it was projected that there would be 1,110 students, and the actual number is 1,127. So in fact, we are up 17 students over the projection that we had made last June. At the middle school, we projected there would be 646 students attending. We currently have 638 students attending, so we're down by 8 students. In terms of the high school, we projected that there would be 793 students attending, and we actually have 793 students attending. So there was no difference. We have 2 students in the postgraduate program. This is a special education program, so they have already graduated from the high school, but we are still providing support services to those students. So we projected a total enrollment of pre-kindergarten through grade 12 of 2,549 students. We are currently enrolling 2,560 students, so we have an 11 student increase overall over our projections from last June. If you turn to the back of your packet, you'll see the actual in-district enrollment for October 1, and you can see how that is distributed over the elementary classrooms for the Batchelder, the Hood, and the Little, so that gives you a sense of class size. And that final report that's attached at the back details for you the students that are attending in-district as well as out-of-district programs. So if you take a look at the bottom section of that particular handout, you'll see that we have 31 students attending programs outside of the North Reading Public Schools, spread out between 2nd grade and postgraduate programs. And our students are, 5 students are attending the North Shore Education Collaborative, 3 students are attending the SEAM Collaborative, and we have 23 students that are placed in other out-of-district programs, for a total of 2,591 students participating in district as well as out-of-district programs.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the committee? Mel?
I'm just going to raise the minor alarm bell again, and I know there's nothing we can do about this. I'm extremely concerned with the enrollment numbers that we're going to have rolling forward in the high school. Next year, we're going to have approximately 820, the year after approximately 840, and the year after that approximately 845. If you remove a small number of students from, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we're going to have close to 840 students for 2 years. It could be a little lower. I'm really concerned about that, not in terms of the building being able to hold them, but in terms of the staff required to adequately educate those students and to have the proper number of students in classrooms. And I know we had, parents in here tonight talking about
eliminating tuition for kindergarten, but we, you know, my opinion, we have not addressed, and I know John and the staff came up with some great some fixes this year to get more teachers teaching different classes, but there were some workarounds that we had to do. And we just need to address this. We can't keep putting a bandage on it. If we have 840 kids in the school, we're going to need 3 or 4 more teachers, and we need to. I think when the budget, you know, when the budget process starts, we need to focus on that.
Yeah, and I want to reinforce what Mel said. It's not a space issue; it's a staffing issue.
Right.
And therefore, it's an operational budget issue.
Correct.
So, again, space-wise, we have plenty of room.
The temporary fix that went in for this year can only hold for 1 year. So as we have said to you in the past, Mr. Bernard will be presenting a budget along with Mr. Connolly that will include increased staffing to the high school.
Karen?
I just wondered what the other district placements, how that's, the trend is for previous years. I don't remember.
Sure.
So the trend, so it certainly has stabilized, and it's actually declined slightly than we forecasted during the budget season. We were actually anticipating, we had budgeted for some range of about 35, 36 students.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've seen that trend where we had increased from about 31, 36, 37, 38 over a 3-year period. And now we're seeing that stabilize, and we actually seen students either graduate from programs or come back within the district.
That's great.
Just one, it's actually more like 820, 830, 835, but it's still.
In fact,
I've actually redone the projection.
Nutrition,
Yeah.
that's on total range.
Yeah, so I'm really, I just, we need to put teachers in the high school next year.
And just to reiterate, as we have done in the past, the shift from grade 5 to grade 6 in the past has been about a 6% decline in enrollment. It's only 2%.
It's almost non-existent now, right?
And the shift from grade 8 to grade 9 came in at 6%.
No, that's a final number, that's an accurate number.
That's
6%.
It had been around 12, and we had some, we had many years that were 15, we had 20% some years.
Yeah.
So this is the second year that it's around 6%. So we can safely say if that occurs for 1 more year, you see a significant shift in the trend.
Okay. Anything further on the enrollment? All right.
Oh, may I? At the next meeting or the meeting after that, Michael has done a great job in the 10-year projections as well as historic enrollment, and so that will be on a future agenda. Just one more time to take a look at 10-year projections.
All right, at this time, I'm going to ask the superintendent to deliver her last final administrative report.
So you have received a supplemental report that details for you some real significant personnel appointments over the last couple of weeks, or shifts, I should say. I'm pleased, as you well know, to announce that we have a new North Reading High School principal, Mr. Anthony LaPrette, who is the existing assistant principal, will assume the principalship on Monday, October 20th, when Mr. Bernard shifts from the high school principal position to superintendent of schools. So contract negotiations between Mr. Bernard and Mr. LaPrette have taken place, resulting in a 3-year contract for the position of North Reading High School principal. The annual salary will be $118,227, representing step 3 of the high school principal's salary schedule. And as I previously mentioned, Mr. LaPrette will assume that role on October 20th.
And that's out of 8 steps, if possible.
That's out of a possible 8
steps.
steps. Any questions about that or any additional
Nope,
information?
I don't have any.
Okay. In terms of filling the North Reading High School assistant principal position, a search timeline has been prepared for you and is attached to your packet, and that has been prepared by Mr. LaPrette. That position, that we're hoping to fill that position by December 1st, 2014, and Mr. LaPrette will facilitate the search process. Now, there is an interim period of time where Mr. LaPrette will be principal, and we will not have a sitting assistant principal. So there is a plan that's being worked through right now that Mr. Bernard will speak at a future meeting of filling in with an interim or a long-term substitute, if you will, for an assistant principal until a permanent person is hired. So that is in process. Any questions about the timeline for filling the high school assistant principal position?
Questions? No?
I have a question. I'm just curious about whether it's been considered that we look internally first and then externally for this role. I'm not looking at you, Jeannie. Don't worry.
You mean for the
For the assistant principal position.
I can tell you that as of today, there were 23 applicants for this position. It was just posted. So there's high interest, and that is open to both potential internal as well as external
Okay,
candidates.
so you decided to do both at
Yes,
the same time? Like
that's
it's-
correct.
Okay.
If we're consistent, the newest teacher on the protocol will move up one spot. We'll have to fill in that position.
You're welcome. In terms of the coordinator of digital learning, due to the recent resignation of Nathan Campbell, the position of coordinator of digital learning is now vacant, and attached you will find the search process timeline to fill that position by November 1st, 2014. It is an aggressive schedule, and Dr. Patrick Daly will facilitate the search process. Does anyone have any questions about that timeline?
Have we gotten any applications yet? Is it posted yet?
It is posted, but I'm not sure how many applicants. There was one so far.
And I guess my other question is, obviously the circumstances beyond our control, the person resigned from the position, but we have a huge job ahead of us with this school. And I'm hoping Patrick can hold up. Is Patrick going to be able to focus on the technology for a while and put some other things on the back burner?
It's a very good question, and as we noted with the assistant principal, there's a gap between Nathan leaving and hiring someone. And so we're going to be looking into contracted services to be able to continue the work that's taking place at the high school to supplement what the instructional technology staff is already doing, because there's a lot to do, and then to support whatever needs the department may have, or to supplement what the department is doing across the entire district, because we're still trying to move forward in all of our schools, but we also need to make sure that this school is up and running as a new facility.
I know I don't have to tell you this, but I think it's extremely important we get the best possible person available, even if we're in a hurry to fill this position. So I hope that we're going to, be patient enough to look for somebody that's going to satisfy our needs.
Correct, and I can tell you that we've had preliminary conversations that if that best person isn't out there, we'll continue to hire contracted services to do what needs to be done and reopen the search.
Essentially pay for the contracted services with what would have been used for the salary.
That's correct. Michael's already done a budget analysis of both positions that are currently open.
This is kind of bad timing,
Yeah.
but it's out of our control. So, okay. Any questions? Any further questions on the?
What I'd like to bring forward at this time is to recommend the school committee approve special projects that have been submitted to the superintendent and reviewed along with Mr. Bernard. Special projects are opportunities for administrators across the district to take on projects that are not typically part of their regular duties, but these are projects that we deem important to continue to move forward with various initiatives across the district. So I'm proposing that the school committee approve the amount of $17,625 in special projects to be awarded to both building-based as well as central office administrators.
So moved. And I won't make this part of the motion, but I will ask that before we make the first payment of these two payments, that Mr. Bernard come back to us in his role as superintendent when he assumes that before the first payment is made in December, just so we can get an update on all of these special projects.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mel and a second by Cliff. Just for the record, too, this $17,625 is spread over 9 administrators. There's no more than $3,000 for any one administrator. This is a common practice that we've had going for at least the last 8 to 10 years. And again, this is for work and time committed above and beyond what their regular job description is. And in most of these cases, a lot of these cases, it's regarding this building project. So at this point, we have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0.
And if I may indulge,
The floor is yours.
thank you. So just a couple of parting thoughts. I'd really like to thank the school committee for giving me the opportunity to serve as superintendent, and especially to serve as superintendent for the North Reading Public Schools. It's been a joy working with the faculty, the staff, the administration, and especially you. We have so much to celebrate in North Reading. We have so many positive and important opportunities that really are making a difference in the lives of our students. So you really should celebrate that. You set the example for others as a high-functioning team. And that's based on respect, and that's based on sound shared decision-making, and that's based on collaborative problem-solving. And I know you will continue to provide this kind of leadership and support for Mr. John Bernard when he assumes the responsibility of superintendent of schools at the end of this week. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to whatever the future may bring to North Reading, and it's been a pleasure and an honor serving as your superintendent of schools. So thank you.
Well, I have to agree with everything you said.
We are in a political committee now.
The pleasure's been ours, we're going to miss you, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I want to say again, I mean, the last 4 years have been, it's been such a pleasure to deal with you, especially when I had my 2 years as chairman, because then I could really get under your skin at times and needle you, and I really enjoyed that. But what you brought to this community, I have full confidence that John Bernard is going to continue in that role. He's a great leader. He has great rapport with his parents and his students, and I have 100% confidence that he will expand that to embrace the whole community.
You might want to take the melon away from Jerry occasionally.
Yeah, exactly. John, I mean, that's going to be an issue if you're dealing with this guy.
John, absolutely, John.
Kathy, I only hope that you know half of what people of this district think. There's someone who's got a pulse, I hope, a very good pulse on his school. And in recent months, a pulse on the district. You should be very proud of what people think of you in this district. And personally, I want to thank you for being not only a wonderful mentor. I've worked with 5 superintendents in 27 years. And it has been a true pleasure these last 4+ months. And I'll miss you. I'll miss your friendship. I know you'll be only a phone call away, and I'm hoping I can take advantage of that on occasion. But please know that the work you have done here has been warmly received, and I think it's going to be long-lasting. You've been an outstanding superintendent and a wonderful person. And I wish you a long and fruitful retirement, doing all the things that you enjoy the most with the people who mean the most to you. So best of luck and thank you.
Can't wait till retirement party.
I just have 2 questions. When John calls you, what's your hourly rate? And then the second thing,
We'll talk about that.
and then the second thing is, I agree with him on the long, healthy retirement, but I hope not too much of it is spent down in parts of Connecticut.
Okay.
You know,
I went to school in Connecticut.
Go ahead.
I had the pleasure of being the chair of the selection committee, and that found you. And as the chair, I ended up by going to the other community to interview them about, who is this person? And I can remember on the way, Maureen Sacco came with me on that, and as we're on the way back to North Reading, I said, they are going to have such a hard time getting along without her. She's such an important part of their program. And here we are, a few years later, and I'm feeling all of that pain. Certainly it's been a wonderful 4 years. You've done so much here. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Anybody else? Mr. Delaney.
You know, I've worked with a lot of people, but in my practice, as well as with this community and my involvement with the community, I don't think I've come across one person that has put in more time and is more dedicated to what she does than Kathy Willis. Not only did you work for this district and this community, but I feel as though you are and will always be part of North Reading. I have the utmost respect for you, and I wish you nothing but the best in your retirement. And I don't care how many trips you take down to Connecticut. It's well deserved. But honestly, you came to this community 4.5 years ago. You hit the ground running. You became part of the fabric of this community overnight. And that is so much appreciated in this community. No matter what position you're in, what town you live in, if you ingratiate yourself in this community appreciates it, and that's what you did. And as a parent with 2 kids in this district, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for this community.
Generally, if you're here more than 4 years, everybody hates you. You know, in your case.
How many years have you been on the board?
I know. Nobody runs. That's why I got on.
Good point, Karen. Very good point.
I'm always gonna get you.
Zena. Okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to adjourn. So, second. Motion by Cliff, second by Mel. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion is carried.
That's it, Captain.